Alright, what's up everyone? Doing a tutorial for the Cubism warp. It's weird, it's a weird one. Alright, so anyway, to start off, you need to get above the ceiling. There's a couple ways to do this, so I'll just go over both of them. So one way is just get a can, do a launch, hold W, or I mean forward, I guess, you're on console. I think this works on console, just so if you're on there, you know, could do it if you're in the market for a Cubism warp. Just hold W, land here. Alright, then once you're here, we'll go to the next phase. But real quick, I'll just show one more way of getting up here if you want to go for that one. So alternative strategy, if you don't want to do the can launch. This launch I found is harder, but you just take the dice and launch with it. I hate it here. Okay, there we go. I never really liked that dice launch strategy, but it's there if you want to go for it. Alright, so anyway, now that you're on top of this vent, I'm gonna grab this. Oh, real quick, if you did this strat, you want to get rid of this cube first, just FYI, because that could get in the way of the setup. Just like toss it over there. Yeah, good stuff. So next, I want to grab this dice side. Yeah, just grab this, and then I like to rotate it flat as I walk sideways, and then, you know, stand like somewhere in the middle of the room. You know, about here. This is fine. So then you're just going to drop it, resize it, until you see the texture change, and I'll kind of note when that happens. So kind of quick clicks, quick inputs here. Alright, there we go. Now you see how it changes color, kind of? That's how you know it's ready to warp. So that's good. Anyway, so now you got it like this. You're going to want to kind of do the rotation. And real quick, a note on this situation here. So it's this color, right? So you know it's big enough to warp with, ostensibly. But the issue is that you don't really actually know how large it is. Like, it could still be, it's within a range, you just know that you can't resize it anymore beyond this point. So it depending on how big it is, the strat could either succeed or fail, and in the run, you won't actually know whether it's going to work or not. I've found, like, even like with the same setup, everything that, like, looking the same, it can still be like a 1 in 3 chance about. So there's some RNG, kind of no matter how you slice it. Okay, but anyway, next part of the strat is just kind of rotate it, or look down, basically. Rotate it so there's just a line. Then align this vertical line with your cursor. Then look up at the ceiling. And you want to make it so you can get like kind of a nice setup, because you want this dice side at a certain angle. And this angle is malleable, because what this angle will do is it will determine how much of an upwards velocity boost you get after the warp. But the trick here is that if the dice side was at the small end of the range, it could be, then it won't really matter. Like then you would want it like really vertical, because you want more of a launch to get you closer to the elevator at the end. But if it's really large, like if the dice side was towards the larger end of the range, then you're going to be kind of almost overshoot the elevator. And if it's really large, you'll get more of a velocity boost that way, right? So basically the size of the dice side and the angle both kind of combine to determine the launch height after the warp. And it's sort of a guessing game as to how much of an angle you should do. So I like to do kind of about this. Somewhere around here is what I like to do. This is kind of what I've had the most success with. But it's not an exact science. So yeah, once you have a decent angle, you're just going to want to rotate the side, or kind of rotate the side until it just about disappears. And as you can see in the corner of the screen, or towards the side of the screen, in the cube kind of informational display with practice mode, the scale of this dice side is like over 12,000, which is towards the larger end. So we're probably going to get like too big of a launch here, and it's probably going to be bad, but we'll see. Give it a shot here. So then just stand in this doorway, look about this point, is what I like to do, and then just jump and click for the warp. Okay, F4. Yep, we're going to space. Very nice. So yeah, not an exact setup, not an exact science. In the run, there are some times where it'll just fail, and there's not much you can do about it. So yeah, pretty frustrating strat, but when it works, it's great. So anyway, let's try that again, I guess. Okay, so like that's closer to ideal. So that's, but you know, it's not too much of an upwards velocity push there. So I may have almost rotated it too much, but it worked because I was right above the elevator. But if I'd been off to the side over here, I would have just fallen into the void. So, you know, it's nice when everything works out and you just land in the elevator or close to it. That's, you know, in the current world record run, everything just worked. Because the upwards velocity boost is obviously a little bit of a time loss over the ideal scenario, because you have to actually wait for yourself to fall into the elevator, which is, you know, like 5-10 seconds. So I'm going to kind of try and get an example of kind of a more typical example with a little bit of a launch, just because that's what you'll probably encounter most often if you're kind of going for consistency. Like if you always just kind of turn the cube side more to go for the optimal strat where you don't go up at all and just land in the elevator, it's not going to work as often. So it's a trade-off. All right, there we go. That's a more typical sort of scenario. So that's basically like the textbook Cubism warp. You teleport to a place slightly off from the above the very top of the elevator, and then you have to then you get a little bit of a boost so you don't fall into the void, and then you fall down into the elevator. But you know, like I said, even with kind of a pre-polished setup, or at least the setup I had, it's still a 1 in 3 chance about, in my experience. And that's like RNG that you can't do much about, because, you know, the dice side is not consistent, and because the setup is so precise, because you're trying to get all the way over there, it's you're pushing the limits of the warp, right? It's like you're trying to go to just about as far as you could possibly warp to with the most good warp object in the level. So it's you're pushing the margins so much that the margin for error is pretty low. So that's why the setup is so RNG intensive, as opposed to something like optical, where you can just teleport yourself above the elevator and have time to adjust your falling as you go down to it. But yeah, that's basically it. Quick tutorial for the Cubism warp. Hope that helps anyone who's looking to use this strat for any percent. You know, I wouldn't exactly recommend it, right? Because, strat's pretty tough, pretty inconsistent, and it only saves like maybe 20 seconds over the launch strat. But if you want to go for it, here it is. Good luck. See ya.